Okay, good morning, class. So for our meeting for today, we'll be talking about the qualitative research design. My apology for not being in class this morning, so I have recorded our actual lecture for our meeting. So let me just share my slide to everyone. Share. Okay, so for today, again, we'll talk about the four important qualitative research designs, which are the case study, ethnography, phenomenology, and grounded theory. By this time, you should be able to know already the specific qualitative research design uh, you have already because you already have your working title. And after working your chapter 2, which is the review of related literature, you will have to be able to create your chapter 3, which is methodology, and specifically indicate there the specific qualitative research design relevant to your study. Now, qualitative research designs are powerful tools for exploring the complex social phenomena in international settings. Again, we're talking about here of a social phenomena, and that's why it's qualitative, it's descriptive. They allow researchers to understand individuals' experiences, context, the cultural norms, and in-depth. So we are to explore the four foundational qualitative research designs, and each has very distinct goals, methodologies, and data analysis approaches shaped by prominent scholars who have contributed to its development. And so by the end of this lecture, you are to be able to differentiate the four qualitative research designs, identify and explain the contributions of the important scholars who have significantly shaped each qualitative research designs, outline and applying the data gathering and analysis procedures specific to each qualitative research design in hypothetical or real research scenarios. And of course, develop appropriate research questions and potential study titles for case study and the rest of the qualitative research designs tailored to various fields of inquiry. So first, let's talk about the uh, case case study design, which I think majority of you will be doing. Now, it's an in-depth contextual analysis of either a single or a multiple cases. I have specifically, think made mention doing only a single case study, so as it would be easier for you rather than doing multiple case studies. Because if you have several participants, you will have to cross-analyze each of the participants that you will be gathering. It would take much of your time. So this method explores the phenomena within the real-life settings and is often employed when boundaries between the phenomena and the context are not clearly evident. So case studies are commonly used in fields of education, the social work, business, and the others. And the pioneers of the case study design are as follows. We have Robert K. Yin, which I think I have suggested for you to be able to use. Sharon B. Miriam, case study education, adult learning. And we also have Robert E. Stake, which I saw some in the approach in your introduction that you made use of Robert E. Stake. And then how's the process in data gathering? So in a case selection, you have to identify a critical, unique, or representative case that provides insight into the actual research question. Now, I told you before, when you create your research question, you have to be able to synergize it or connect it with your research title, your aims, your purpose, and then be able to create your research questions with the words how or what only. And then we also have a multiple data sources. Now, data collection involves interviews, documents, artifacts, observations, and archival records. Now, you have to be able to do triangulation, meaning you have to use multiple sources to ensure the reliability of your study. Because later on, the panelists might be able to question you how reliable uh, is your study, and you can tell them that you did triangulation. Now, in data analysis, a case study would usually use thematic analysis. You have to identify the patterns, the themes, or trends within the case data. And there's a cross case synthesis In multiple case studies, comparison across cases highlights the differences and the commonalities. Here are some of the examples of case study. These are actual research titles. Understanding leadership practices of principals in rural schools, a case study of corporate social responsibility initiatives in a multinational firm, investigating distance learning in a developing country, the role of parental involvement in school success, and the rest. And then we move forward to ethnography design. It involves immersive research within a cultural or a social group. Example, I think there are a couple of students who will be doing the LGBTQ plus as a social group that can be part of the ethnography, aiming to understand the practices, behaviors, and beliefs from the insider's perspective. So it's a long-term engagement wherein the researcher becomes part of the community being studied, meaning you have to be physically present in the community. According to research, you must be at least in the range of 3 to 6 months. And there are two important terms here, which I already made mention before, the perspectives. We talk about two very important perspectives in an ethnographic design, uh, which is, we call it the emic, perspective, and the mimic perspective. Now let's try to differentiate both terms because this is very important. Now, in the emic perspective, this refers to the understanding of a culture or a social group within focusing on the internal viewpoints, your emic, the internal viewpoints and meanings that members of the culture attribute to the experiences. While in contrast, you talk about the ethic. Okay, you talk about the ethic perspective. So you have the emic and you have the ethic perspective, an external analysis applying the outsider. So ikaw yun, the outsider interpretations and frameworks to understand culture and phenomena. So you have the emic, which is the people in the group, and the ethic, which is the outsider, kayo yun. Now, this would have to involve the external analysis applying outsiders' interpretations and frameworks to understand culture, the cultural phenomena. Okay, so those are the two important terms. Now, who are the pioneers of ethnography? We have Bronislaw Malinowski, the founder of Participation Observation. We have Margaret Mead and Clifford Geertz. But specifically, I have recommended Spradley for you to be able to use in the ethnographic research. And then the process in the data gathering, you have to be able to do the field work. You have to immerse yourself. In research, it says you have to have long-term immersion in the community being studied with ongoing data collection. So there should be participant observation, involvement in the daily activities of the group while maintaining a researcher role. So there would be in-depth interviews and artifacts and data collection through conversations, cultural artifacts, and document. Now, what would be the data analysis? Usually, you do coding. You break down the field notes and interviews into codes and categories, and there would be thick description. So creating detailed accounts of the cultural practices and behaviors para rin siyang thematic analysis. Now you do coding, you categorize, and you do the thick description after the actual categorization. Now these are the 10 ethnographic research titles from the ethnographic study of gender roles in a remote indigenous tribe, understanding the work culture of Silicon Valley startups, a study of street art culture in urban centers, and many more. So just read the other examples. And now, of course, you have the phenomenology design. Now focuses on understanding individuals' lived experiences in relation to a phenomenon. Now, this approach seeks to uncover how people make sense of their experiences and their perception of events. So it is used widely in psychology, education, and health-related researches. That's why I think some from STEM would have to have a phenomenological research on the lived experiences of an asthmatic person, a diabetic person, the lived experiences of families whose member of the family had stroke. Now, the pioneers of phenomenology would be Edmund Husserl, now the founder of the phenomenological movement, the focus on consciousness. We have Maurice Merleau-Ponty, highlighted the embodiment of experience, and Max van Manen, uh, the applied phenomenology to educational and human sciences research. Aside from the three, I think I also gave an example of Colaisi, okay, and Georgi, which you can also choose as an author of phenomenology. Now, in the practices of data gathering, there should be an in-depth interview. Researchers gather first like accounts of participants' experiences. Then you do bracketing. Researchers attempt to set aside their preconceived notions and biases. And there's descriptive and reflective writing. So the participants describe their experiences in detail, which the researcher analyzes. Now, in terms of data analysis, we have the so-called phenomenological reduction. So you have to reduce the data to key experiences that reflect the essence of the phenomena. So para rin kang nagko-coding, nagka-categorize, and you create your themes. So the structure and textual analysis, you have to identify the underlying structures and descriptions of the lived experiences. Here are some of the research titles of phenomenology. The lived experiences of caregivers of Alzheimer's patients, experiences of first-time teachers in urban schools, phenomenological study of post-traumatic stress disorder among veterans, and many others. And then we have the grounded theory design. So grounded theory aims to develop a theory grounded in systematically gathered and analyzed data. So this methodology is particularly useful where there is limited theoretical knowledge about the phenomenon. The researcher's goal is to generate theory from the data. So usually data would be coming from the grassroots. No? In grounded theory, as May mentioned before, you actually have very limited literature. So the pioneers of grounded theory would be Barney Glaser, Anselm Strauss, and Kathy Charmes. Now, in the process of data gathering, there is a theoretical sampling wherein the data is gathered to develop emerging categories and theory, and constant comparative analysis wherein the data is continually compared with the other data to refine categories. You have the open, axial, and selective coding. Researchers use the stages to identify the patterns, relationship, and the core categories. Now, in terms of data analysis in the grounded theory, it will have to use a coding, breaking down data into the open codes and then refining through axial and the selective coding. So you have the theory building. The researcher constructs a theory grounded in the data collected. So here are some of the grounded theory research titles: Developing a Grounded Theory of Teacher Retention in Urban Schools, Theory of Coping Mechanisms Among Refugees, and many others. I think in terms of data analysis across the four designs, this was made mentioned earlier: case study, thematic analysis, data triangulation, ethnography. You do coding, categorizing, and the thick description. Phenomenology, you do descriptive phenomenological analysis and bracketing. And the grounded theory, you do a comparative analysis and coding. So in conclusion, so each of the qualitative research design offers a unique lenses to explore the complex phenomena, whether focusing just on a single case or a cultural group, personal experiences, or developing a theory. Now, these designs provide in-depth insight into the human experience. So I think that's it for our lecture. So I will be expecting this week the finalization of your RL in paragraph form. And immediately after or next week, you'll have to be able to create your chapter 3, which is methodologies, which is very relevant to our lecture for today. So that would be it. Thank you.